When you're closing deals, remote closing, I mean, we're used to talking about, cash collected, right? Payment plans. Was it paid in full? Was there a payment plan issued? What's the show up rate of the people that come to the calls, right? All this type of stuff. Like those are key metrics for like closing deals as a closer. But in the corporate space, in the remote corporate space, closer doesn't exist. Like it's not like I've said this a few times, but there's no such thing as being like a good closer. They're not going to be like, oh, Terry, like you're a badass closer, man, because that term only applies if you're taking like 100 calls a day. In the corporate space, remote corporate space, the sales cycles are longer, right? So like if I close a deal at Warner Brothers and it's a $2 million deal, but it's the only one I did all year, am I like a closer? No. Term closer actually doesn't exist. Now, you need to be good at closing deals, don't get me wrong, but closer is not a title. That's like a made up thing from like the movies that has filtered into like high ticket sales and stuff like that. And that's what they call high ticket salespeople, is closers, right? Which you can arguably say is weird, because why would somebody want to hop on a call with a closer, right? Mm-hmm. Think about it, right? So in sales and corporate sales, we're not about being closers. We're sales professionals who try and shorten business cycles as much as possible. But in order to do our job properly and to have a good understanding of the entire cycle, the fiscal year and where we stand, everything, we need to know these key metrics. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into it. Month to date. Okay. It tracks the total revenue generated within the current month. As simple as that, right? You want to know like what you did in January, what you did in February, and like since we're in February, our month to date would be whatever we did this month, period. It's very simple. Yeah. Okay. If I've done 200,000 so far this year, I did 120,000 in January. My month to date is 80. Right? Year to date is the accumulation or the cumulative sales performance from the beginning of the fiscal year. So January, February, we've done 200K. What's my year to date, Terry?
80.
Jaleel?
200. So we did 120 in January, 80 in February. So 200 total.
Oh, year to date.
Yeah.
My mistake.
All right. Pay attention here. I feel like I'm in the class. I'm going to hit you guys with a ruler. Yeah. But go through these guys, understand them. And like, we're going to walk through the sales dashboard as well. But it takes some analysis. You need to go back afterwards and like review it and have a look and understand it. If you're in a company and they're like, Rashad, what'd you guys do month to date? And you're like, right? It's your whatever you did this month, how much, right? So we always need to know these numbers. These key things are what we should always have in our head and when we're in sales. Because when people ask you questions, you want to be able to speak with this terminology because it always tells a story. Month to date tells a story. What does it tell? Jaleel.
What you so
yeah, so it basically tells like how the month is going. Like,
yeah.
Are we
and
on
year
target?
to date it tells you what other story?
Like how the year's going so far. Like, are we hitting our targets or not?
Yeah, exactly. And you can compare everything back to where you're at, right? As we move through this process. Okay. All right. Year to go. How much more they need to sell before the year ends to meet their target, right? So let's say that's our current situation. We have 200K year to date, and our quota is 1 million. What's our year to go?
800,000.
800,000, right? So you could, at any given time, when somebody asks you how close are you to hitting target, what's your quota attainment right now?
I guess you would say year to go is 800,000.
Yeah. So, but like if you have 1 million quota and you've done 200,000 of it, what's your quota attainment percentage? How much percent done are you?
20.
You're 20%, right? Okay. Well, last year we were at 35% this level. What's happening? There's a story, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to tell stories in sales like a book, like a number. You should always be able at the top of you, like spit that out. It makes you sound incredibly intelligent, super credible, and that is how you get promoted. I'll tell you a story. My first time at when I was in Louis Vuitton, like my second week, third week, like I was sitting there, I was feeling good about my job, like I had my suit on and shit, and I was sitting there, and the head of HR came in, and this guy is like he ran the group HR, like thousands and thousands of employees, like really high up. And he just came in and he was like, how's it going? Like, how you liking the new job? Right. I'm like, yeah, cool. He's just kicking it. Like, he's literally sitting there with his like feet up on the chair, like just kicking it with me, just whatever, doing whatever. And then he's like, how's the business going? And I'm sitting there like, oh, good, but like that, right? Not knowing my numbers whatsoever. And he was kind of looking at me like, okay, so I guess you're just getting into it then. Right. That's what he said. And then he left. And that was a terrible feeling because like that doesn't need to happen. If the head of it, if you have an opportunity to discuss business on a strategic level with a huge member of the team, be ready and know your story, know your numbers. And I'm not asking you to know a million numbers, but know these ones. I could have been like, yeah, actually, we're sitting around 40%, quota attainment, but yeah, year to go strong, our pipeline's strong. Last year we were at around 32% at this time, so we have about 8% growth already this year, which is like super positive. So we're seeing some like really nice trends in the market, and we're quite positive about hitting budget and probably even exceeding it. Yeah. Oh, cool, Corey. Right? It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Than being like, oh, I don't know, I gotta check. Like you should review your numbers. Like, I don't want to say on a daily basis, depends on the business you're doing. But anytime you think there might be a drastic change in them, at least once a month, you should review where you stand exactly vis-a-vis last year, at least. Yeah. Okay. Q to date. What is Q to
If you don't
quarter? Oh, yeah. Terry?
I had a question. If you don't have, like, if you're new to the organization, let's say you're in like month 3 or 4 of employment, let's say you started January and you're in like March, April, who would you get those numbers from, or where would you find them?
They'll be like in your CRM systems. They could be in Salesforce.
Okay.
They probably have an overview somewhere. There's data there. You can just ask for the numbers, the past 5-year numbers. You can ask for that. They'll have it. Sales is always like a benchmarking game. It's always we're always benchmarking, right? Like, how good am I versus last year? Because sales is a growth-oriented mindset. Declining sales is not, that's not the name of the game. It's always going up, right? That's why you get paid more. Hey, Mike. So we always want to have that mindset. So you always want to benchmark what you're doing, and it should be, and hopefully better than what the last manager was doing or the last sales rep was doing, right? That's going to put you on another tier, right? And that's why 50% of being successful in the remote corporate space is how you present yourself internally. Can you tell these stories? I'm not saying like shit on everybody, but you want to put yourself in the best light possible, right? People want to make sure that you're credible. They want to know that you're on the ball. If you can recite these numbers and tell a story, they know you'll know it way more than they do. So they're like, shit, he's the guy, right? Very important. Quarter to date sales. I'm not even going to show you. What is that?
It's a period of sales within 3 months.
Yep. So it'd be January, February, March, right? April, May, June, whatever quarter you're in. And you can measure, right? The reason why we do these in fragmented like this, like, so January, February, March, Q1, what was Q1 last year? Is there a trend? What about the year before? Is it declining in this time? Why? Was there marketing going on then, here, that, right? Like, you want to know so you can tell a story like, hey, we need more support from the marketing team in Q1 because we're getting killed. Like, over the last 3 years, it's been going down about 4% a year. And it's due to the fact that we were having massive campaigns and now we're not. Right? But you got to be able to explain why. Like, you can't be like, I want the marketing to do better. What do you mean? Right? But if you can quantify everything in a story, you can draw logical conclusions of why you're not where you should be. And that's also very important when you're trying to like talk your way out of a jam. Like, let's say you're having a bad year. You better know your numbers. Like, it could be that, example, like at Tag Heuer, our selling watches, our main market is China, right? Okay, the US and then China. It's like huge. Yeah. And China put a restriction on the amount of luxury watches that the Chinese people were allowed to bring back from Switzerland. Because what was happening in the past is they would come over and they'd buy like baskets of watches and they'd go back and they'd give it to their managers their bosses. I forget what it's called. It's called something in China. I'm not sure if you guys know, but it's like there's some sort of term for it where you buy stuff for your plus ones, plus twos. It's like as an honor gift and things like that. So they would come and they'd buy like crazy amounts. And then the government, because it was kind of like bribing, they cracked down on that. And you could only bring in like one piece or something like that. So my sales go down dramatically, like 60% down in China, which is a massive hit to my budget. Now, if I'm just sitting there like, oh, I don't know, I gotta go check with the stores why they're not selling. Or I say, yeah, the government of China cracked down on XYZ because of XYZ. So we're seeing like a drop of 60% in the retail sector, blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of contributing to our weak, Q to date numbers versus last year. Oh, okay. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know. It's not, that's the point. It's like, it's a sales cycle. Yeah. And you're there for multiple years. Okay. Does that make sense so far? Why we're doing these numbers?
Yeah.
It's a business unit. So you need to be the king of your business unit, and you need to know exactly what's going on at all times. You're running a business inside of a business. That's why they hire you. Right? Okay. Quota attainment. We just did that. Terry, we've done 200K this year. Our budget's $1 million. What's our quota attainment?
800 to quota.
Yeah, but what's our quota attainment percentage?
Oh, we're at 20%.
There you go. And if you were at 18% last year, what does that mean at this time?
Because we have 2% here.
There you go. There you go. Because of some reason, right? Whatever it is. Great. Win rate. That's all the potential deals you have that turn into closed sales. That's your win rate. So it's closed deals divided by total opportunities. Okay. Now, total opportunities doesn't mean leads. They're different. Okay. Leads are measured in conversion rate. That's deals closed based on leads. A lead comes into your funnel and you might have a quick, discussion with them, and then they show interest. Now that's an opportunity. Okay. They're different. Leads are leads, and opportunities are more nurtured leads that are actively engaging in discussion. Yeah. Quiet. Crickets. Yeah. Clear?
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
makes Yeah.
Okay. So if you have 50 conversations, if you have 50 opportunities and you close 25, what's your win rate?
50%.
50%.
Here we go. All right.
I actually got a question here.
Yes.
So for when you call it an opportunity, like above a lead, where is that like the same thing as a sales qualified lead in like the MQL SQL framework?
It's debatable. We're going to go into MQL SQL next lesson.
Got it.
For me, an opportunity is somebody, it depends on the business cycle. Like in Warner Brothers, an opportunity is somebody that wants an offer.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So like if I have discussion with brands and let's say Omega wants to go in the Olympics. Yeah. And I'm like kind of pitching them sort of what we're doing and stuff. They're like, cool. Like, yeah, listen, I'd like to have an offer. That's an opportunity. So if I put out 15 offers a year, like multi-million, whatever, 15 offers, and I close 3 of them, then that's I'm gonna say 10 offers, and I close 3 of them, then I'm at 30% win rate. But I have tons of other leads, right? Like other people who we're talking with, they're not really there for an offer yet, but it depends on the business. So it's a good question. We'll go into that next time.
Gotcha. And one more confirmation. So opportunities is like the highest form of us marking a lead as like qualified, right?
Yeah. So another main thing, and it's a very interesting question, because another main thing that's important is like your pipeline should only have opportunities in it, right? You don't want to fill your pipeline with things that will never close. So your opportunities, what you forecast doing, right? Your pipeline or your, we'll go into it in a second. That has to be full of actual opportunities. It can't just be full of leads, right? Otherwise it doesn't make sense. Like a forecast, like, so we'll have discussions, right? But I won't include those discussions into my forecast. I will include my offers into my forecast. So it is the highest qualified in my business cycle. Like it depends. You have to figure that out when you get there, what they're doing, what it means for them an opportunity. It could be different across the board. I can only explain sort of from my perspective, like a Warner Brothers. In Louis Vuitton Group, it was more distribution business model. Like an opportunity for me was like a market that was opening up with a qualified buyer. That would be an opportunity. So I would forecast that. I would say like, okay, listen, like I think by the end of the year, we're going to open up 3 points of sales in Albania, and that's going to bring us in 300K. So I would have that in my pipeline. But I wouldn't have pipeline people who just like other distributors in Albania who are, I'm not sure yet if I want to work with them. I won't put them in, right? Because they're not as qualified. So
Sure.
So, okay. Now conversion rate is the amount of deals closed based on total leads, right? So let's say your conversion rate, well, let's say your conversion rate is low. What do you got to do to improve that? Like, let's say you have a low conversion rate and you're working towards a budget and like you don't know, like your conversion rate's low and you don't know if you're getting a budget because of your conversion rate. What do you do?
You role play a James Yu and you refine your skills.
Yeah, okay. You can work on your converting skills. Yeah, but what else can you do? What other?
You better get better at qualifying people before you like consider them like a qualified lead.
Well, so if win rate is closed deals to opportunities and conversion rate is deals closed to leads generated, what can you do to make more money?
Get more leads.
There you go. Right. So from a sales management perspective, if you see one of your salespeople who have a low conversion rate and you don't know if they're going to hit budget, you could be like, buddy, you need to spend like the next 2 weeks generating leads. Your leads are low. So because you're not converting them, so you need more leads.
So what if you have like a really high total leads and like the conversion rate is low, but like your total leads are so high that like you're hitting all of your numbers? Is that a good or a bad thing?
Great.
Oh, okay.
That could mean multiple things. It could mean that, you know, the leads aren't as qualified, they're not as nurtured, but you're still driving business, right? Your number is your quota is your main number. But when you look at it, when you break it down into these aspects, essentially, there's lots of different levers you can pull, right? Like if this one is low, right? Maybe your total opportunities are not actually really good opportunities, right? Maybe we got to work on the qualifying. I don't remember who said that, but maybe we got to qualify better, right? Before we include one as an opportunity, you know? Maybe we need to work on our closing skills. Maybe we need to seek mentorship on how to close properly in that industry.
Okay.
From the better ones, right? It's always like but it's more just to see kind of like where you can. And as a sales manager, you can't just go in there and be like, your numbers suck. Ugh. It's like, you got to be like, yo, Mike, like I've noticed your conversion rate is super low versus like the rest of the team. What's going on here? How can we help you? You know? Okay. Pipeline coverage ratio. Whether a salesperson has enough deals in their pipeline to meet their quota. A ratio above 3 is generally considered healthy. So if you need to make $1 million, you should have $3 million worth of opportunities to be considered healthy. That's why a part of a sales cycle, right, is closing deals for sure, whatever, but it's like having a healthy pipeline and being able to prospect properly so that you can secure your budgets. Let's say you got an $800K budget, Jalil. Yeah. And that the number might sound familiar. Let's say you have that. What do you need in your pipeline?
2.4 million.
Yep. Right. Just to make sure that you hit that. And it's important to know that, because if you don't think about that, but maybe your closing rate is like extraordinary and like your numbers go up, but you want to always have a healthy pipeline, because that will help you one this year, but also next year. Because I'll give you an example, like often what we'll do is if we're having a great year, we'll just like push budget to next year. Like we won't even account for it this year. Now accounting doesn't like that, Jill. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, they eat that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but we'll do that, right? Because we just set our next year up well, and we already hit bonuses. So too bad, right? So we're sales management is constantly also in a bad year. You might, if you're doing multi-year deals, let's say I got $1 million already committed for next year, I might pull 200 into this year of recognized revenue to help the team hit bonus. And that's why remote corporate sales has that stability, because essentially you can move things around too. They don't want you to leave.
Yeah.
Right. Probably shouldn't be saying this shit, but it is what it is. Yeah. Okay. So run rate. We're almost done, guys. Yeah. I think this is the last one. Run rate, projected annual sales based on performance. So it projects the annual revenue based on current performance trends. Okay. So if a rep is behind, it signals the need for increased pipeline or better closing efficiency. So run rate. Okay, let's say last month I did 20K and this month I did 20K. What's my run rate?
20K a month, no?
Well, so the run rate is,
So for the year, like 120.
year-to-date sales.
240, right? For the year.
So you go 20, you go
Technically, it's if you already did 20 in this month, it's only halfway done. It'd probably be different, right?
yeah, so let's say we have the year-to-date numbers, it's 40, right? 2020
Sure.
divided by the months that have elapsed, 2, so it's 20 per month times 12, 240,000 would be my run rate. Now what's my budget? If my budget's $1 million, my run rate sucks.
Yeah.
If my budget's 230,000, hey, he's doing pretty good. Like it looks like he's going to hit it. So it's a story, right? Again, it's like, it's never a science, but like I can see quite quickly around April, May, I know in April, May, if we're going to get paid this year or not, almost with guarantee in terms of bonuses and stuff. And these are good numbers to, if you're more on your own, like in the remote corporate sales space, it's good numbers to have and reflect on. So you can tangibly and critically have a look at yourself and what you're doing. It's a way to measure yourself. And if you're sitting in a managerial role, it's a way to measure your teams equitably, right? And allocate resources to help individuals who need certain things based on what their numbers are telling. Okay, so we're going to dive into it now, guys. This is a real simple one. Now it could be more complicated, doesn't matter. Okay, this is just like a mock sales dashboard. Right now, we want to be able to tell a story, right? So we have all these numbers, and we have our sales reps. So we're in March 2032. Yeah, future proof of this. We're in. We have our sales reps. Okay, and we have each column. Now, all these things pull from raw data. Raw data, we have January, February, March, leads generated, opportunities created, deals closed, total revenue, average deal size, month-to-date sales, right? Each month. Okay, so the sales report is just pulling from this raw data. Yeah, I'm just giving you an overview so you know, right? C2, C4, right? So total leads generated is C2 to C4 for Allison. You see, just the sum of these, right? Okay, so when you're going through it. But This is what essentially you want to set up a sales dashboard like this for yourself or for your team or whatever, right? So we have our total leads generated, right? That's clear. Yeah. So let's stick with Allison. Allison has 200 leads so far in March. From those leads, she's qualified and there has been interest shown from 70 of them. And from those 70, she's closed 20 deals. Okay. The total revenue so far, which is deal closed times average deal size. Right? Month-to-date sales is 90,000. Okay. And her year-to-date sales are 240,000. Okay. Now, year-to-date sales, because we're March, would be what?
The 240, the full 240, because it's the first quarter of the year so far.
Yeah. Okay. Her budget is $1 million, which means her year to go is
760.
$1 million minus her year-to-date sales. Okay. Her quota attainment, year-to-date sales,
Percent.
right, divided by her quota. Total pipeline value, 2.2 million she's gotten there. Good or bad?
It's good if you're looking at the year to go number.
But not great on the.
That's true. That's very true.
Not great on the.
Bad compared to quota.
Yeah, it's not good compared to the quota. Right? You want to keep that constantly up. But that's a very, very good point, Julio. Right? And that's why it's not an exact science. Okay. But if you want to hit $1 million quota, you need to have at least over 3 million in there. Maybe she's closed a bit since it's going down, but you want to keep that healthy. That's the point. That's why in sales, we don't want to stop prospecting, even when it goes well. Because there's going to be rainy days where it's not going to go so well, and you're going to be happy to have a pipeline full. Win rate. Opportunities created. Well, deals closed divided by opportunities created, right? Not bad. Conversion rate is on leads. So closed deals divided by leads. Pipeline coverage. Okay, that's what we went over before, right? We want it to be over 3. So who has a healthy pipeline?
The guy at the bottom.
Ethan, right? So you could tell just by looking, right? And these numbers, these to me, quota attainment, let's put them in blue. Quota attainment, pipeline coverage ratio, and run rate are very important metrics for top line to have a quick overview. Right? Because do we remember what run rate is?
Yeah, it's like your projected amount for the year based on where you are now.
Exactly. So if we got $1 million and she's as a run rate of 960,000 plus her pipeline coverage ratio is only 2.2, is she doing pretty good?
Not really. She's like just under. Like it's not terrible, but you definitely can improve.
Yeah. Right. Now her conversion rate to leads is quite low as well. And her win rate is quite low. So she's not doing great. Like if you were looking at a sales team, she's one of the weaker ones.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
Now, look at this guy. Oh, there's a guy or girl. That's Dana. Dana White.
What are you doing, man?
He's in sales now, guys. Dana White. Run rate, 880. Whew. Pipeline coverage, doing almost no prospecting. Conversion on leads, low, the lowest. Win rate, tied for second lowest. This guy, or this girl, Dana, is struggling. Right? Now let's look at a good one. Run rate. Who's this guy? Ethan's killing it. He's already at almost 40% quota attainment in March. His total pipeline value is 3, right? Pipeline coverage ratio. So he has a solid pipeline. And his pipeline, he's actually converting quite high on leads. So we can, when we see that, we can probably think, okay, his pipeline coverage is pretty accurate. right? A 9 shows us that like, okay, she might have a bunch of opportunities in there, but the leads aren't like she's not converting on the leads. So maybe they're not, maybe her prospecting efforts, they're not as tailored. Maybe her ICP is not in line. Maybe she's not going after the right people. Maybe her leads that she's considering as leads aren't really, right? So lots of things we can look at here. Okay. Clear so far?
Yeah, so far so good.
Okay, so like Ethan, we could see like he's closing, you know, more solid deals, like at a more solid pace, right? And he has a high pipeline ratio. Perfect, right? Second, we have Bob. Where's Bob? Bob. This guy's Bob. He's doing pretty good too. Run rate looks like he's going to hit budget, right? So he's really, and what's interesting with Bob is he's at a 42% win rate too. Like he's good at closing deals. Okay, as well. So that wouldn't be his problem, right? Like let's say his run rate was lower, but his win rate was the same. Closing deals wouldn't be the problem. It would be the fact that like maybe his pipeline coverage is quite low, right? I mean, he's doing okay right now, but run rate is just like a general term. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, are these pipelines going to? If you were to give Bob advice, guys, based on the fact that he's a good closer, he converts pretty well off of leads. He looks like he's going to do it, but we're only in March. If you wanted to ensure that Bob hits his targets, what would you tell him?
Get some more leads.
Yeah, get a lot more
Get
leads.
more leads and maybe build out, get yourself over 3 to ensure that you hit that, man. You're doing great this year, Jaleel. Looks like your run rate's high. Looks like you're going to hit budget and hopefully exceed it. Maybe some accelerators will kick in there for you. What I've noticed though is that we do have a drop off in Q2 usually, and based on like what you've done, and if I look at your coverage, your pipeline coverage ratio, it's a little low compared to like what we'd like to see, which is above 3. So like I need you to find $1 million worth of pipeline there. So prospecting for you for the next week is like a must to get us up there. Yeah. So spend your time doing that, get some more people in, get some more discussions going, and then we'll see where you stand at in April. When we're talking about feedback, right? Like that's tangible feedback.
Yeah.
You know, instead of and then some sales managers will be like, "Whoa, you didn't do it," blah blah blah. Like, have a look, man. Always know what to look at. It tells a story. Okay. Any questions, guys?
No, this is super helpful.
It's very interesting. It's a very interesting aspect. It's like corporate sales, corporate anything is always more analytical, right? Closing deals, B2C closing, like always, that's hard, man. That's like a hard thing to do, right? You got to be really skilled to do that, and that's cool, and that's why you guys are learning that. B2B is more about like this type of stuff. Like if you're selling, I got 8 clients or something at Warner Brothers, like that's all. You know, so what am I going to do all day? I do this. I would look at here. I'm prospecting. I'm putting things in my pipeline, doing all that stuff, right? But I'm not like sitting there all day taking closing calls, right? Like you know, so they're different. They're different. But
So sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
So like in a CRM system, I guess these numbers typically would be there in like the reports and stuff, or would you kind of have to build this out yourself?
That's a very good question. So we have like a Salesforce at Warner Brothers that like we don't use at all. I don't even use it.
Mm-hmm.
One, because we have guys on our team that kind of use it and they report back to management and stuff through there, but I have my own. I like to have my own where I know what stories I'm telling,
Yeah.
what levers I need to pull. So I build one out myself. When you're doing remote corporate sales, guys, like one of the main things, Jaleel, that you're going to have to deal with is getting up and doing the same thing consecutively and consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prospecting, I hate prospecting. I hate it. Emailing people and stuff like that, but I'm happy I've done it. So if you can get up every morning and prospect for 2 hours by yourself, like if you could do that consistently, that will compound instead of like running around with like a chicken with his head cut off at the end of the month trying to find leads.
Yeah.
Just like 2 hours each day, start, stop.
Yeah.
And then that would, if you do, 10 hours a week like that, you're going to have a huge pipeline. Okay, guys. So that's essentially it for today. So what we're going to do, I'm going to send you guys over probably tomorrow or the next day, like a raw data sheet. Okay. Where you'll have all the formulas, you'll have the raw data, and it's kind of up to you to essentially create your own dashboard. I'll give you instructions and be able to tell your story or the story of the sales division. Okay, so I'm gonna give you all the instructions, like I said, like kind of like how we did with the ICP. We're gonna do the same thing for this, and then next week we're gonna have a look at that.
Cool.
Homework time, like grade school, guys.
I do have a question.
Yes, please, Rashad.
Is there one metric or number that's at any given time can be more important than any of the other ones, or is that like a dynamic thing that happens based on like the time of year?
That I would, from when I look at this, I would look at run rate,
Okay.
and then I would look at pipeline coverage ratio, because closing rate can kind of go up and down a bit, but these will give you a good snapshot. Like, yeah, he's he's doing great. He's on track to hit 500K above budget, and his pipeline's like super healthy, and he's the best closer we have. So like, no doubt in my mind that, what is his name? Ethan's gonna kill it. What about Alice? What about Alice, guys? What do we think? What do we think about Alice in March?
Which one is Alice? Is that this?
Alice is not on track.
Yeah, Alice is like close to being on track, so like there's potential there, but she's like right on the borderline of not good enough. So you kind of just have to have that conversation in terms of like seeing, okay, like what's going into your like conversion rate being so low, and like how can we improve it? And then I guess it also depends on the dynamic of the team. Like if you know that there's better salespeople out there, then after maybe another month or so, you can kind of just move on to someone else. I guess it all depends on the dynamic of the team and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I could recommend, guys, if you ever have a sales team, is don't withhold this information as your information that you can use to hold authority on people. That's the wrong way. What I do at Warner Brothers is like I have a similar document, not as exhaustive, but like we track like run rate, we have pipeline stuff, forecasting, and things like that. And yeah, those are like pretty much the main numbers, but my whole team has that, and they can all see where they stand individually at any time they want. They can just go check it. They can't change it, but they can go check it. What that does essentially is makes people accountable to themselves, and they can see very clearly where they stand, right? Like they can see like on a month, we discuss on a monthly basis where we're at all together collectively, because again, divisional and company-wide performances contribute to your bonus structure. So yeah, you'll have your individual target, but like, for instance, Alice, if she doesn't hit her target, she's going to benefit from these three, right? So she'll get some bonus component, right? So important to not, some managers will withhold this information and then they'll use that as like tactics in their like one-on-ones to make them look smarter. Whereas if everybody has all the information they need and they know where they're lacking, if that makes sense, they can actually fix it themselves without coming with an excuse down the line. And if it comes to a point where they just didn't do it, at least we've been talking about it for 6-7 months, and then that's a different discussion, right?
That seems like a good point to why you'd want to have these numbers on your own stuff all the time.
Yeah.
To self-diagnose, even if you have a bad manager.
Exactly, because you got to tell a story. But even that, or let's say your manager's boss wants to, find out what's going on. Yeah, hey, we're doing this, right? You want to be able to say how the business unit is doing, and tell the story. They'll understand, and that comes back to like interviewing and stuff like that. If we know these numbers, right, we can talk about these things when they come up. What's the average run rate of your employees? If you ask a question like that, the guy's like, this guy's in sales, right? The lingo is important. how we present ourselves, how we discuss, how we talk. These are important when it comes to interviewing and also being effective in an organization. So know your numbers. Okay, so I'll send you guys that. I'll drop it in the schools. You guys can have a look and then spend some time going through it. Once you walk through it, guys, like you set up your own dashboard and walk through it, look at the formulas, understand what's going on here, then it's like clear. Then it's like, okay, cool, got it. And then you'll never forget it because it's not hard.
Mm.
Like basic, there's like 6 formulas here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Average run rate is 16% over quota, by the way.
Oh, I love it. How'd you develop that one?
I just took an average of all of the run rates. So and then it came out to 1.16 million, which would
Okay,
be 16% over quota.
cool.
But
So yeah, it looks like we're gonna hit. It looks like the team combined will do about 16% over this year, based on where we currently stand. What was the run rate last year at this time? We're at 98. So we're improving. That's a great message to deliver to upper management.
Yeah, and then it also gives you the opportunity to coach your people who are not kind of doing the greatest, and then give them, the accountability and the basically giving them the actual, like, that's where your job as the manager to get your team's performance up kind of comes in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oh, this is perfect. Thank you.
All right, guys.